Tell us about the moment that you found out that your track was going to be featured on Love Island. Like, what was your initial reaction?
I didn't believe it at first. I think when a placement like that happens, you're always a bit skeptical just because of I don't know, there's like so many different layers of like clearances for a sync placement. And it was in a batch of songs that got pre-cleared, meaning, the music supervisor for that show, they compiled a bunch of songs that could be on the show, but you don't really know until like the very end, or sometimes even like when it airs, it's kind of like a surprise. But yeah, I mean, at first it was like, there's no way like they'll choose my song out of like the thousands of songs that they have. But yeah, I think once we got the confirmation like the day before that, hey, like it made the episode and it's going to be, featured at like this time. And then when we like watched it, live, I mean, it's always strange hearing your own music in a capacity like that for such like a popular TV show. But they also use like a huge part of the song for like the most climactic point of like the whole episode. So it was just like the grand finale episode, the climax of like people like people who found each other and then all that kind of stuff.
Something in me awakened. Ooh, the fire now is starting to grow.
So I mean, the whole thing was pretty surreal, but yeah, the first reaction was just like, nah, there's no way.
Did they tell you initially that that's where it was going to be in the show? Like, or did you just think like, oh, it's going to be somewhere in the show? Or did you know it was going to be like at the most climactic? No, I mean, we have like a timestamp, but it's not like that equates to, what sort of like, part of the show that actually is. That's awesome. Did you produce that song with like this outcome in mind? Was it like you got a brief for this and you were like, I'm going to make a song for this? Or was it, I have this song that I made and I'm going to send it out to some places? Or kind of walk me through like the idea of the production. Was it always intended for sync, or kind of what was its intention?
It was intended for sync, but obviously there's not like a way that we pinpointed it specifically for Love Island. But I had two collaborators, a part of that, a girl named Tabitha Meeks and under Gracie Moses, and both are phenomenal artists, in their own rights, and then also incredible writers. And then we all have the same sync representation. We're all part of the same company that is kind of like the middleman between music supervisors needing music and, people like me and then people like them who, write and create it. And so they facilitated the brief of, hey, Love Island is kind of looking for this, but it also could be applicable towards, plenty of other uses or TV shows. And I think it was maybe Gracie, or it could have been Tabitha, who had the initial idea. And then, they brought it to me, and then we kind of fleshed it out together with, like recording everything here in my studio, and then, taking it all the way through Musiversal to get some more life to it, with the cellos and stuff like that, and then mixing it and mastering it, and then, sending it off, and then hoping for the best.
Can you describe how you like think about that intention and like what that kind of intention feels like when you're in your workflow?
Yeah, I think that's something that as a producer that you figure out over like a long period of time. And there's a bit of psychology with it as well. To like, we can only really pay attention to certain things at certain times. And I think, from like the early days of producing, of feeling like I had to put like, so many layers and, 100 different parts and all these things happening, to where now I'm like, if I just have like a really nice sounding, piano part or guitar part, and it's the whole like less is more kind of philosophy. And for this song in particular, I mean, it's such an intimate song. It's such a, like a breath of fresh air basically. And it didn't take much. And I think that was the approach was, okay, the song doesn't need a lot, but what it does need are real intentional parts to kind of help convey, the emotion that was in like the vocal performance. Gracie has like an insanely cool and airy voice, and I wanted to complement that with only a few parts that would make sense. And it really only ended up being like a piano part, cello, maybe a couple little like atmospheric pads kind of sounds, and then like very minimal sort of like cinematic percussion, and that was it.
Yeah, and obviously like being in Nashville, like you have a plethora of different musicians and resources that you can tap into.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like you're orchestrating and doing all of this stuff like pretty much on your own. And then you'll bring, people come into the studio and collaborate and work with you, and you'll get musicians from all over the place. But do you tend to, when you program something out in MIDI and then you bring someone in to play it live, whether it's from Musiversal or whether it's a friend of a friend or a friend of yours, like, do you ever make changes or last minute decisions based on what you get out of a live player? I
mean, especially now. I think before, a few years back, I would probably try to program out the parts that, I heard in my head. Sure. But honestly now, I try to give very little direction because I'm trying to pull much more out of the player. I know the things that I'm good at and my strengths, but they're going to think of parts and, ways around the song that I'm not going to think of. So, I'll have like a few, like, hey, these are kind of the foundational things that I would like, and let them sort of improvise on top of that. And I've been so much more happy, going that route than trying to like score everything out and then giving them some either like, sheet music or transcription, or like MIDI parts. And I'm just like, do your thing. Just as a creator, not as a business, but as a creator, like what were some of like the challenges that you faced? The most practical part is it takes a long time to become like financially sufficient in music. Mm-hmm. And so, myself and all of my friends, everybody that I sort of, I would say, we're kind of at like a similar level, whether it's in life or just like stage and career. But, honestly, it's just putting, food on the table. So having like real jobs and having, different streams of income that would allow us to continue focusing on music as much as we are now. That's always been my biggest struggle of, I have a family. I've got a wife, I've got 2 kids, so they come first. And so I think for the longest part of the career is just figuring out how to, survive and make actual money, but then also continue to pour as much, energy and passion and creativity into, making music. And that just takes a long time. So, there's a huge balance, that you're still trying to figure out, and probably will continue trying to figure out, for forever. But that was definitely the biggest challenge, I think, before I feel like I'm at the place where I'm at now, where it's, things are happening, and things are busy and on the schedule. And so it's less of a pressure, but it's certainly non-existent.
I'm from Sweden, so this is particularly interesting to me. So I'm wondering, when you worked with the Swedish people, when you were there, did you notice a difference in like how things are done in the way you, collaborate and communicate compared to, where you spend most of your time making music?
Honestly, no. I think the way to go about, writing and collaborating is honestly just the same. My role in the room stays the same. It's a different environment, sure, which is like a little bit of a learning curve. Just, I'm obviously very comfortable here in my space, and I know exactly how to get the sounds that I want and how to, facilitate a very quick session. So over there, it's a little different just because I'm out of my usual space and comfort zone. But as far as the process of like writing with an artist and collaborating and developing, it's exactly the same. So I think that's one of my favorite parts about music is like, no matter where you're at, like in the world, it's the same exact process, from here to Sweden or Los Angeles or whatever.
Yeah. Sorry, I want to apologize. I'm 98% sure my house just got struck by lightning, which is the craziest. Whoa. Yeah, there was just like a huge flash, and then all of my Wi-Fi just stopped working. And it's like very badly storming here. So I apologize for that. I'm going to go outside and check on that in a bit, but we'll wrap up. That was just the craziest thing. If that's any type of recorded on camera, that's going to make for a very funny moment. But I didn't
hear it.
Okay.
Did you guys hear anything?
What is like your process specifically with Musiversal? Like, do you come in, probably not with sheet music, you probably come in with some rough reference for them, but I'm curious to hear kind of like your process for Musiversal specifically, because everyone's is different. And so I'm curious to hear kind of how you use it and how you make the most of it.
Sure. I think by now, I've used, I've had drums, I've had guitars, bass, strings, whether it's cello or violin. I think like 1 or 2 more. I think like pedal steel. So I mean, obviously it's song dependent, and a lot of the times my process for Musiversal specifically is either like an additive part, like for example, I'll have a foundation of a track, but I need cello because there's no string instrument that will provide that sort of characteristic that a live cello would do. So for me, that's like a perfect example to use it, because I've done most of everything else. I have a very specific thing in mind, and Musiversal provides the solution to that. There are other songs that, like bass, I've had Aaron play bass on a few country songs. And I mean, honestly, that process really isn't that much different than like working with somebody here. I do think there are times in which, if it's such like a intricate part of a song, like for me, it's more helpful to do it in person as opposed to, trying to cram something into like the, 30 minutes that I have with somebody. So I usually leave it to a part that is either letting the musician improvise, that way they can kind of do their thing. And I'm not really like, trying to guide it too much. Because for me, it's a part that just, again, like it's an additive to the song, as opposed to like a specific thing that the song is maybe like a foundational aspect that I just need a lot more time with. But again, I mean, I've even done drums where it's like, it's a pretty like simple part, for like a pop song that it's not like it's, a very hard or, intricate like jazz part or something. It's really just like a pretty straightforward beat, and we'll knock that out in 20 minutes, and then just like get to chat for the next 10. So that's always fun. But I think that's been like the majority of my experience with Musiversal is kind of filling in the gaps to productions I'm already working on, but in a way that I feel comfortable that I can get exactly what I'm wanting within the time that I'm given.
About that session, like that was with Ben Trigg, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
Talk to me about working with Ben. Like, what was your kind of, when he started playing, or like, what did you give him kind of, and like, how did that
Sure.
all go? Yeah.
Man, Ben and I, we've been in a pretty good groove lately. It's always fun, finally getting to that point where you work together with someone long enough that, he knows where I'm going, like, and he knows the things that, I specifically like or I'm looking for within a song. That was a pretty early one. I think it takes a while to kind of develop that relationship with any musician. And I think at that time I was probably giving him more direction than I am now, of hey, here's kind of the things I'm looking for and that, and I'll still give like a basis, or at least like a foundation of like I'm kind of looking for busier parts in this chorus, and a little bit here, but at this point in time, I mean, he pretty much knows like the way that I'm approaching cello for songs specifically. And so when we hop on, we just kind of do a quick little catch up, and then we get to work, and that's that.
I think part-wise, that's it. I got some movement. Could you actually give me maybe like a little bit more of a simpler take this time around? Oh man, so good.
Something like that.
Yeah, I love it. That's so good.
First heard that, and I heard the song, and then like when you said it was going into Love Island, I was like, bro, this is sick. And then I listened to the cello part, and I was like, yeah, Ben really did his thing on this. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it sounds so good. Was that your MIDI instruction, or did he get any improv kind of over that?
It was mostly the MIDI
Nice.
parts at that point, but because honestly it was such a simple song, so I mean, besides like give me like just a root note, some whole notes, and then a third above that for like some harmony aspects, and then him kind of doing his thing of like maybe like tremolo parts to help build some tension here and there. And I mean, he knows that instrument super well, so it's like once he understood the dynamics of the song, then he could help build tension in the moments that needed that, and kind of take it from there.
Super cool. Awesome, man. Awesome,
David,
man.
thanks so much, man. It's always a pleasure to be a part of this. And again, it's actually made a difference in the work that I'm doing. So I'm happy to talk about it and share about it, because I mean, I really believe in it. And I know that when I'm doing those videos, I always get comments, people like, hey man, like I actually didn't realize, like real producers, I guess, were using it, so I feel like it takes a while to like get that credibility with it of like, hey, I'm in the thick of it and I'm using it and it's actually working.